I finally understood the burden my father had carried all these years. A burden that had torn him down to whatever was left of his own humanity. As I sat there in the dark, pondering what I had just witnessed, I could not deny the creeping sensation that I was next. The monitor flickered as I opened the last body cam footage file. An uneasiness clung to my bones. I pressed play, not like I had a choice anymore. I sealed my fate the moment I heard my father's last words. Body cam footage 4. Some time had passed since they realized the tunnel was gone. It was obvious both Hopper and my father had made multiple attempts to navigate through that endless maze, questioning if they had just gotten lost or if the tunnel really had just vanished and replaced by the same yellow wallpaper of this new hell. They were now sitting on the carpeted floor of where they started, their backs against the walls, facing each other. Hopper called over the radio unit. "Anyone there? Over." Static silence filled the void between them. "What now?" Hopper said. My father shrugged. "They have Billy, which means he knows a way out. It also means he probably left the children in here with us." "You think we'll find them?" "Alive, I mean," Hopper asked. "I have to believe. I didn't come all this way just to get lost and not find them. Not for nothing." "Hopper, is Dan. Over." Hopper quickly held up his walkie-talkie. "Good to hear your voice, Dan. We seem to be lost in here. Over." "The tunnel is gone, Hopper." Hopper looked straight at my father. His face turned white. Dan continued. "I don't know how else to describe it. It's like it was never made. I'm looking at the concrete wall of where it was earlier today." Hopper closed his eyes and slammed the back of his head against the wall. "Billy knows a way out. You need to get it out of him. We need to figure out where he left those kids." Over the radio, I could hear men scuffling around and someone yelling at someone else to sit down and stay still. Then a panicked voice blared through the radio's tiny speaker. A new voice cried out through the radio. I can't. Please, please. I don't want to go back there." Dan yelled at the man. "How did you get out? Where are the goddamn children? Answer me. Damn it, Billy." Billy Costigan cried. "It was the only way. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to live. Please." Jim told Hopper to give him the radio. Hopper tossed it to him. "Dan, it's Detective Simmons. Keep Billy on the radio." "Roger that. He's all yours, Detective," Dan said. "Please," Billy cried out. "Billy, you listen to me, and you listen good. We're stuck in here, in this place you found. You need to tell me what you've done with the children and how we can get out." "It won't." "Listen, if you don't, we'll put you away for good. I don't care what it takes. I'll pin all those missing children on you. You'll be begging me not to put you in prison. You know what prisoners like to do with guys who mess with children. Don't you, Billy?" Billy whimpered over the radio. "Everyone's going to know your name." Silence filled the airways. My father continued. "But if you work with me, if you just tell me what we need to know, I'll make sure you're safe." The other end was silent with some static humming. Billy stuttered as he spoke. It told me to do it. I was in there for weeks, maybe even months," Billy whimpered. "It said I could go, only if I bring them down here." "Okay, Billy. Who is it? Who told you to bring them down here? Where are the children now?" "He's got blood all over him, Simmons," Dan called out. Billy cried once more and continued. "You don't understand. They've been dead since Yesterday morning, I had to. It was the only way. The only fucking way. The radio fell silent, and no matter how many times Hopper or my father tried to call anyone, no one answered. It was as though the space they were in knew what was being said and left them where it wanted to leave them. The next scene began. It was now 4 hours after the conversation with Billy. Both my father and Hopper were traversing through the endless maze. They discovered sections where the carpet was wet or dirty, wallpaper torn with what looked like a knife. Then when Jim was about to cut the feed to save battery life once more, they stumbled upon a single closed door painted in bright white. They stood in front of it for what felt like ages, neither of them saying a single word to each other. The door was too tall. The knob had to have been at least 7 feet off the carpeted floor. There was enough height for what I could only imagine some sort of giant needed in order to walk in and out of. "You hear that?" Hopper said, looking over to my father for acknowledgement. He was closest to the door. I leaned in and turned the volume up. Voices. Lots of voices. None of them sounded like children though. Laughing, talking, yelling. All of them sounded cheerful. It sounded like a busy restaurant or a large gathering. Sounds of glassware and tables and chairs being moved around on the other side. My father moved forward and on his tiptoes. He managed to turn the doorknob and push the creaking door forward. The voices instantly stopped. Hopper and Jim stood in the doorway, facing only the pitch black darkness ahead. Hopper reached for his belt and pulled out a metal flashlight. As he clicked it on, I myself heard something heavy move in the kitchen of the apartment I was in. I quickly paused the video and got out of my chair. With my heart pounding incredibly fast against my chest, I felt like a heart attack was imminent. I stepped outside the desk room, my phone flashlight raised high in front of me. No one was there. Suddenly, the video I had paused resumed without my control, and I jumped from where I stood. "Jesus," Hopper said as he stepped forward in front of my father and looked around the large room. There were tables and chairs everywhere. Empty drinking glasses and plates stacked on top of each other. Purple and black and gold confetti spread all across the floor. There were signs of some sort of graduation ceremony displayed everywhere with purple and black balloons. No one was there. Not a single soul. There was one sign in particular I could make out clear as day, written in gold letters, hanging from the ceiling. Class of 1993. The scene ended there. I paused the video once more before the next scene began. Cold sweat rolled down my face as I felt my heart tighten in my chest. My hands and fingers shook, unable to steady myself. I then felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise slowly to a presence I could not see nor comprehend. Unable to move from my chair, I looked out towards the dark living room and waited for something to happen. Static buzzed through the computer speakers as the next clip began without my control. I wanted to look away, to keep my eyes away from the screen, but then I heard the children again. "Yeah, I hear them," Hopper said to Jim. They were now standing in a long hallway. At one end, I could see the hallway come to a T crossing. "They sound close. Come on," my father said, leading the way down the hallway towards the sound of the giggling children. As they approached the T section, my father looked both to his left and right. Each end came to another T section. "This fucking place." Then the sound of a child calling for help came from his left side. Both my father and Hopper began running towards the cry for help. As they got closer to the other T section, the children began giggling again, louder and much closer now. They were almost at the end of the section when Hopper stopped my father in his tracks. "Hold on for a second," Hopper said, trying to catch his breath. My father turned to him. The children's laughter, loud and clear, were coming from somewhere behind him around the corner or so. What's wrong? Hopper shook his head and wiped the sweat from his eyes. The lights above them flickered twice. This isn't right. I don't feel right about this. We'll get out of here, but first we need to get a hold of these kids and get them to safety. It's not the kids, Jim, Hopper said. His eyes wavered back and forth. You heard what Billy said. The sounds of the children grew slightly louder. You're saying something else is making those noises? Don't you feel it? Hopper gasped. Look, I know I sound crazy, but this isn't right. None of this feels right. The lights flickered again. This time, it was the whole hallway. Both Hopper and Jim looked up towards the ceiling and then back down to each other. The sound of footsteps and the children grew closer. I was certain any moment now I would see them on the camera. If you're wrong about this, my father began. And if I'm not, Hopper said. I watched as my father pulled out his pistol and turned around. The gun pointed straight down at the end of the hallway. Who's there? He called out. The sound of the children grew even closer, this time with even more footsteps. It sounded like a whole parade was stomping towards them. Jim, Hopper whispered. We need to go. Now. My father took a few steps back. Fuck it. He then turned around and both of them started running down the other end of the hallway from the crowd that was approaching. As they rounded a third corner, I can hear the children behind them screaming with the excitement. Go, hide, my father yelled. Both men continued running as fast as they could in the endless maze. The humming fluorescent lights above them flickered on and off like some sick, twisted game. They rounded several corners and eventually came to an abrupt dead end, taking the wrong turn. The sounds of the children still growing closer every second. Fuck, Hopper whispered. My father pointed towards an opening that they had missed, a small opening to their bottom right. You want to hide in there? Hopper said. Do we have a choice? Jim hissed. Both men crawled into the small opening. It was built like a small hallway that only led to a dead end with no lights. Both of them turned once they reached the end and waited. My father gripped his gun tightly and pointed it towards the opening. The sounds of screaming, giggling, laughing children had now entered where they had once stood. The lights in the hallway still flickered on and off. Both Hopper and Jim kept silent as they waited and hid in a small tunnel. The room fell silent. Shuffling of feet came to an abrupt end. I watched as a large shadow casted on the wall emerged in and out of focus multiple times. Hopper was right. It wasn't the children. There was something large standing there just out of sight, perhaps waiting and listening for where the men were. Hello? A child's voice echoed down the hallway. I can see them, another child's voice said. My father's gun shook violently as he still held it, pointing towards whatever this entity was. Then emerged a sound of a newborn crying frantically. The hairs on my arms and neck stood straight up. What sounded like a mother's lullaby quickly followed after, and the sound of the newborn stopped. The lullaby continued as the entity slowly stomped away from their location. Slowly but surely, the sound grew too faint to hear anymore. This whole time, Hopper whispered, that thing was luring us this whole time. End of scene. The next scene began immediately. My father was looking down at the camera. Sweat and tears rolled down his face as he started crying. I had never once in my life seen him react this way. A sadness I wish I hadn't witnessed. Hopper was nowhere to be found. The fluorescent lights above him flickered on and off, his face covered in dried blood. "I'm sorry," my father said, wiping away the tears from his face. I looked over at the top right of the screen, and a heaviness filled my chest as I sat there frozen in my seat. This scene was recorded 5 weeks later after the tunnel incident. How long had my father been down there all alone? How did he survive with no food or water? My father continued, "I had to do it. It was the only way. I'm not strong enough for this. Not anymore. I had to leave him there. In the dark." A child's giggle emerged somewhere from off camera. He then quickly looked up towards something out of sight from the camera, as if something had entered the room with him. My father then quickly got up from the floor and turned the camera towards what looked like a ladder bolted at both the bottom and top. In the ceiling lay a wooden hatch. "Do you see it?" he said as he pointed the camera towards the hatch. "It's his turn now. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have come." My father then began climbing up the ladder. The fluorescent light next to his head buzzed louder. He laid his hand on the wooden hatch and pushed with what little strength he had left. Dust particles fell down onto the camera lens and his face as he pushed it open and crawled into a new dark space. "I'm sorry," he said one last time as he shut the hatch from where he came. There he stood in a dark room, the camera pointed at the wooden floor. "It was always meant to be you." He then pointed the camera towards what looked like his very own desk room in the dark. He was now back inside the very apartment I was sitting in. I felt my face grow pale as the camera focused on what was sitting in his desk room. The camera showed my body looking down at the monitor with the same fear my father had in that hospital. In the body cam footage 4. I quickly got out of the chair and pointed my phone light towards where he was supposed to be just now filming me. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized no one was actually there. How the hell was this possible? How could he have recorded me from 2010? I stepped outside the desk room, my hands and legs shaking as I carefully walked towards the kitchen. Something shifted beneath my feet. I pointed the flashlight down towards the kitchen floor, and there I saw the wooden hatch my father had used. As I stood there, unable to move my own body, I heard the mother's lullaby coming from the other side of the hatch. Everything has led me to this. Even now, I feel it pulling me in. The space beneath us is real.